No problem. Let's call the regular meeting of Lakewood City Council to order for January 3rd, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now pause for a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Baker?
Here.
Bullock?
Here.
Keppel?
Here.
Litton?
Here.
Marks? Absent. Rader? Absent. Shackner?
All right. I'll first move to excuse the absences of council members Rader and Marks.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held December 19th, 2022.
Move to dispose without the necessity of a reading.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. We were sent these this afternoon. I did have some time to look over them and saw nothing that needed changing, of course. And I'm always thankful for our council staff for putting those together for us in such a timely fashion. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 1, Resolution 2022-62, a resolution to designate the month of January 2023 as Poverty Awareness Month in the city of Lakewood.
Thank you. So this was deferred from our previous meeting, of course. Councilmember Keppel, do you know if there's anyone here to speak on this or to this?
Yes, I believe Director Rooney's here from the Lakewood Community Services Center.
All right, perfect. Did she wish to speak, or did you wish for her to speak?
I would like her to speak. I just wanted to first kick off a few thoughts that we know. We recently had the Lakewood Community Health Needs Assessment, which highlighted some of the reasons why it's important for us to continue to remember those affected by poverty in our community. We do have about 13% of our Lakewood residents have incomes at or below the federal poverty level. So that was a little under $22,000 for a family of 3, which if all of us who have families can imagine would be very challenging. Children have the highest rates of poverty out of any population at 18.7%. 1 in 10 Lakewood residents rely on food stamps, and another 1 in 10 qualify for emergency food. And it's also important to note that African American, LGBT, and female-headed households in Lakewood experience greater economic insecurity, which is common throughout our country, unfortunately. But I would like to invite Executive Director Rooney up with Council President's permission to talk to us a little bit, too.
Is this on? Oh, it's on. I think that the mention of the CHNA is really important, and I think rather than just keep this in this room tonight, there are enough of us that participated in the CHNA throughout the city. I think it'd be great if working with the city and Human Services, especially ourselves, Lakewood Alive, who has an enormous Facebook presence, Healthy Lakewood Foundation, that we maybe craft some mutual messages and start sending those out and sharing those among all of us. I think we'd be too self-congratulatory if we said we're doing anything to alleviate poverty. We are mitigating some of the fallout from poverty, and I think that just raising that awareness is hugely important, and there's enough of us. Melissa could take the city's role. We should do something about it other than just keep it in this small group. So I certainly would step up and offer us, and I'm sure I can talk to Kate and to either Allison or Ian and Chad and see if we can't get some messages that we'd like to share in the broader community. I think it's important.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Obviously, I say it all the time, but Ms. Rooney, I hope to be you when I grow up someday. We appreciate your work here in Lakewood and beyond.
And I keep reminding you that you're making me feel very old, John.
Stop. Stop it. Keep up the good work. Ed, I would add that, it does go beyond these walls. quite often, easily, not only with funding, but also just through advocacy work and all the volunteerism throughout Lakewood that I see. We also have 3 e-comments on the topic, 2 in support, and 1 that's neutral but does feel like we should go beyond these 4 walls in terms of how we alleviate poverty, not just talk about alleviating poverty. Anything further, Vice President? Sure. Who is that? Sure. William, would you like to speak as well? Okay, just making sure. Very good. Any other, well, first, why don't I move to adopt this resolution?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Now, any discussion from my colleagues, in addition to what's already been said? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Did we want to take a picture? Is that something we want to do? I think that's an excellent point, Vice President Keppel. So rather than patting ourselves on the back for talking about it, let's just go outside these 4 walls and do something about it. So we'll move on from there and save the pictures for another time once we've solved the poverty issue. Madam Clerk.
Item 2, communication from President Litton regarding updated tree board appointment resolution.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, the following resolution, originally introduced November 7th, has been updated to add the name Matt Krems into the blank. Mr. Krems has served on the Tree Advisory Education Board as a mayoral appointee since the board's inception in 2020. This substitute version also corrects the expiration of Mr. Krems' term, clarifying that he is fulfilling an unexpired term that will expire December 31st of this year. For more details on the current appointees, you can visit that SharePoint link anytime. I'll move to receive and file this communication.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say that Matt Krems is a colleague and a neighbor, and he's excellent. So happy to see that he's continuing to provide some services to Lakewood and enthusiastically support this.
Glad Ward 1 is well represented.
Mr. President.
Vice President Keppel.
And yes, and I was just going to say the same thing, that I have enjoyed working with Mr. Krems on the tree board, and thankful to him for his continued service.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 3, substitute resolution 2022-51, a resolution to take effect immediately, making appointments to the Tree Advisory and Education Board.
Move to substitute with the names of blanks filled in the proper places.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Baker?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Keppel?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
Schachner?
And that motion passes. Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Baker?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Keppel?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
Schachner?
And that motion passes.
Item 4, communication from Mayor George regarding mayoral reappointments to boards and commissions.
Mayor George.
Members of council, the following communication announces reappointments to various boards and commissions throughout the city of Lakewood. As always, I'm thankful to these individuals who volunteer their time and energy to the city of Lakewood. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. And with that, I'd like to move that we suspend our rules to read items 5 through 10 consecutively.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Should we do a roll call for suspending rules?
We sure can. Madam Clerk.
Baker?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Keppel?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
Schachner?
And that motion does pass.
All right, item 5, Ordinance 49, 2022, an ordinance to take effect immediately, further delineating the acceptable uses and purposes of the parking meter fund, Section 12916 of the codified ordinances, to include new revenue and expenses associated with electronic vehicle charging stations, parking meters, electric scooters, and public space acquired or used to facilitate alternative forms of transportation. Item 6, Ordinance 50, 2022, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $2 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving Arthur Avenue, Lakeland Avenue, Olivewood Avenue, Esther Avenue, Roycroft Avenue, Wyandotte Avenue, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters and declaring an emergency. Item 7, Ordinance 51, 2022, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $8.39 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of constructing a refuse recycling facility and animal shelter, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the municipal facilities garage, improving the sites thereof, and including infrastructure improvements together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters and declaring an emergency. Item 8, Ordinance 52, 2022, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $650,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving sidewalks within the city and approving related matters and declaring an emergency. And Nick's going to take it from here.
Item 9, Item 9, Ordinance 53, 2022, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $5,370,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving parks within the city, including Foster Pool and Lakewood Park, and other park improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters and declaring an emergency. Item 10, Ordinance 54, 2022, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $21,285,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of 1, designing, engineering, permitting, and constructing a new outfall, stone revetment, and rehabilitating the existing sewers, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. 2, improving and reconstructing the city's recycling facility. 3, improving the city's jail. 4, improving sidewalks within the city. 5, replacing or improving the roof of the Public Works garage and other public buildings, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. 6, improving heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in various city facilities, including the municipal utilities garage, wastewater treatment plant, women's club pavilion, and city hall. 7, improving Detroit Road, Hilliard Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. And 8, designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. 9, replacing or improving the roof of the Public Works garage and other public buildings, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. 10, improving parks within the city, including Foster Pool and other improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. 11, improving sidewalks within the city. 12, improving Hilliard Road and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. 13, designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. And 14, designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and retiring notes previously issued for such purpose, and approving related matters and declaring an emergency.
Move to defer items 5 through 10.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Did our council staff play paper, rock, scissors to see who would have to read number 10 or what? Not bad. A lot of Roman numerals in there. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Because we did suspend the rules, yes, we ought to do a roll call. My apologies once again.
Baker.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Keppel.
Yes.
Litton.
Yes.
Schachner.
And that motion does pass.
Item 11, communication from Mayor George regarding the appointment of Public Works Director.
Mayor George?
Members of council, attached is a resolution regarding the appointment of Chris Gordon to the position of Director of Public Works for the City of Lakewood. Mr. Gordon comes to the City of Lakewood from a successful career at the City of Shaker Heights, where he had worked for the last 12 years. Chris has served in a few roles within the City of Shaker Heights, most recently as the Superintendent of Public Works. Chris brings to the role a solid background in public works management, business administration, and communications. His knowledge, experience, and dedication will be a great asset to the City of Lakewood. Passage of the attached resolution will confirm the appointment of Chris Gordon as the Director of Public Works for the City of Lakewood.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome, Mr. Gordon, Acting Director, I suppose, for the moment. I will first move to receive and file that communication.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Excited to hear the Shaker Heights background, especially it's very similar to Lakewood in a lot of ways. So it's good to hear. Well, I look forward to talking about it, discussing it more. All right. On the motion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 12, Resolution 2023-01, a resolution to take effect immediately approving the appointment of Chris Gordon to the position of Director of Public Works upon taking the oath of office.
Move to refer to Committee of the Whole.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I'll only add that we're working to schedule this committee meeting as quickly as possible so as to not cause any undue delays. On the motion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes.
Item 13, communication from Mayor George regarding a mayoral appointment to the Anti-Racism Task Force.
Mayor George.
Members of Council, it is my pleasure to announce the appointment of Melanie Swyatt to the City of Lakewood Anti-Racism Task Force. Her term begins January 3rd, 2023, and will be effective until December 31st, 2024. I'm very grateful to this individual for her willingness to volunteer her time and energy to this important board. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 14, communication from Director Vargo regarding 17860 Lake Avenue submerged lands lease.
Director Vargo.
Thank you, Council President. Dear President Litton and members of Council, enclosed, please find a resolution which is required by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources in the permitting process for the construction of the proposed shore structure at 17860 Lake Avenue. If adopted, the resolution will allow the property owners to obtain a submerged lands lease from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to construct a shoreline protection project. This matter has been reviewed by the city engineer, who has found no encroachments or local need for the submerged lands. Thank you.
Move to receive and file that communication.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Do we, on the following resolution, was there a committee preference, or was there a hope to perhaps adopt this tonight? I'm just curious what the administration's take is on.
We understand there's no urgency for the property owners. So if the protocol is to address it in committee, that is fine with the property owners.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can dispose of it now. Is there any questions, concerns, or perhaps desire to wait from any of my colleagues?
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Baker.
Or Mr. President, sorry. This is so submerged land leases are something I deal with kind of commonly in my day job. And the city's role here is basically to determine whether or not it would cause a problem for the city's administration or public works to basically pose an objection to this project. I don't really see if the city engineer and public works are fine with what's being proposed here, then I don't know what else a committee hearing could derive. It's essentially allowing a property owner to shore up their hillside. So I'd be in favor of passage tonight, but certainly interested in other colleagues' thoughts.
I really appreciate that context. I assume there's no objection of any kind or concern, even mildly, from the administration or Public Works Department.
That is correct, Council President. It would be it would be an encroachment on our land that would concern us, and Mr. Papke has determined that we have no interest in preventing this or blocking this whatsoever. And this is a precondition to the permit to be issued by ODNR to the property owner, the permission or the acknowledgement by the city that we have no encroachment issue with it.
Great, okay. Thank you all for the clarifications. I got some nods over here. Is there anything further from Public Works?
No, we don't have any outfalls or anything nearby or any projects upcoming or anything for this land, so we don't see any issue with agreeing for the submerged land lease.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Bullock.
the matters in the past when we've had these that we've covered in a committee hearing is just to get a description of what the project is, which I'd certainly welcome from the city engineer if he's able to describe that. The other question is the one he just answered, which is whether there's, a city facility. Where does this fall on, I'll call it up on the map, but in comparison to the city pipe outfalls and so forth, would be great to understand. And then what are they building?
I think our nearest outfall is at Webb, and then over by Clifton Beach is the next one. We don't have anything in between that.
Super. And what kind of structure is this going to be?
I believe they're putting in a revetment system with stone and then walls that come up, and I believe they're providing access down to the lake from their property, similar to, I believe the next door neighbor has the similar revetment, or a couple doors down.
And, this also, I recall that we've had discussions off and on about a special improvement district to try to help these property owners finance these kinds of improvements. Have those conversations gotten off the ground in the last 2 years, I think? Do we know?
Yeah, they have. I believe we're having our third meeting coming up in January with regards to that. So there are some property owners taking advantage and moving forward with their projects.
Mr. President, to further help answer Councilman Bullock's question, Mr. Papke and myself are the representatives from the city on the Special Improvement District, and they've got a couple projects that are basically going to come back to us at the full council to submit, to basically put on the tax duplicate so that they can fund them over time. So that project and that work is progressing. I'm not sure if this property owner in particular is going to use that financing tool, but it's certainly available to them if they want to.
Okay, that's helpful. So this is a separate step from how they're going to finance it. So I appreciate just getting the information. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
No, especially in lieu of referring to a committee. I appreciate all the questions. On the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 15, Resolution 2023-02, a resolution to take effect immediately approving the use of submerged lands for property located at 17860 Lake Road, Lakewood, Ohio, in order to permit the owners the opportunity to construct the proposed shore structure.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I think we've had our fill. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 16, communication from Chief Dunphy regarding SCBA mask fit testing unit.
Chief Dunphy.
Dear members of council, we have been presented with an opportunity to upgrade our self-contained breathing apparatus mask fit testing unit. We currently own a port account 8030 model and have the ability and have access to a new, more precise QuantiFit 2 machine. The West Shore Technical Rescue Team will be purchasing the QuantiFit 2 machine to be used as a shared regional asset. Currently, the West Shore team utilizes Lakewood's port account 8030. The port account 8030 has become obsolete and is in need of replacement. We are requesting your approval to donate the port account 8030 to West Shore Council of Governments as Lakewood's contribution to the purchase of a new QuantiFit 2 The West Shore Council of Governments will use our machine as a trade-in for the best pricing of the new machine. The trade-in value of the port account 8030 is $1,500 and will cover our contribution to the regional asset. The cost of the new Quante Fit 2 unit is estimated to be $10,500, and the West Shore Technical Rescue Team received a grant that will cover the cost, the remaining cost of the new machine. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
President.
Vice President Keppel.
Thank you. Always excited to see grants help us get things for the taxpayers without them having to pay for it, so thank you for that. I had a question about whether, Lakewood currently hosts the unit that we have, and with the new unit, will Lakewood continue to host that, or where will that be located?
That'll be a regional asset. It will be housed on the West Shore Technical Rescue Hazmat Team. This unit is a required piece of equipment to help us fulfill our requirement for annual testing for our self-contained breathing apparatuses. Both the fire department and the hazmat unit have those testing requirements. So it will be on the West Shore Technical Rescue Team truck that rotates throughout these 6 communities.
Great, and that's not something that we only need it when we need it, is that, I mean, I don't know if that's a great way to describe it, but something we don't use all the time.
Yes, we need it annually to do our testing, 115 masks or so. And then once that's done, we're done for the year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 17, Resolution 2023-03, a resolution to take effect immediately authorizing the Director of Finance to donate a port account 8030 self-contained breathing apparatus mask fit testing unit to the West Shore Technical Rescue Team for use as a trade-in unit to purchase a new SBCA mask fit testing unit for regional use.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. And with that, we are to public comment, of which we have none. Any announcements from the administration? Director Leininger.
Good evening, Council President Lynn, members of council. Happy New Year. I do have some news to share that we received this morning. As you are aware, we've submitted an offer for 12984 Lake Avenue. That offer was accepted. So we still have a closing process to go through, but they are executing their side of the purchase agreement. And so that process will start to take place over the next 30 or so days. So.
Excellent. That's great news. Any other? All right, then announcements from my colleagues.
Mr. President,
Councilman Bullock.
let me compliment you on the most efficient meeting in modern memory. That may they all be this quick.
I was 3 minutes late, too, or else we'd be before 8.
That's right. I have one actually question for probably the public safety folks. Given the fact that there was a very prominent football injury where a sudden cardiac arrest nobody predicted happened, certainly not in Lakewood, but we've got all kinds of wonderful public events all the time. I just wanted to ask for an update on our AED or defibrillator program. I know we've got some stationed in various public buildings, but it's been a while since I've thought to ask, and this public incident prompts the question. Can you update us on not only, are those stationary ones in the buildings, monitored and replaced, but are we also carrying them with police patrols, squads, and fire squads? Thanks.
Councilman
Sorry,
Bullock,
Chief.
through the chair.
Go ahead.
We, ironically, you raised this question, and I know it's just by coincidence because of the injury that happened the other night on the National Football League. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8:45 with both, and not because of that, just happened to be scheduled for the first week of January because we're moving the responsibility from a individual on the department to the neighborhood paramedic program, just for practicality purposes of his ability to go around and check them. We still have the overall number of AEDs throughout the city of about 23. There may be one or two that are no longer functioning. We've got some reports that need to be upgraded, stuff like that. And we're also budgeted to purchase a few more units this year. And we have some Bluetooth units going in at all the parks that can report back to us in real time what their status is for battery capabilities and equipment and tampering and things like that. So the program is running and they're readily available. Police do carry them in their vehicles. We also have them in, obviously, all of our major apparatus, but we also have them in our individual cars. And tomorrow morning, we're actually meeting to transfer all that information of where they're at and when they've been last checked and all that and so forth over to the neighborhood paramedic. And we're going to continue with that process. I don't know if there's anybody out there that is looking for a specific spot, but there's certainly recommendations. We'll take any recommendations if you think there's a place that the city would benefit from having one.
That's really good to hear. Thank you. And so to clarify, that's some or all of the police and fire units that have the AEDs?
All of the fire units do, not all the police cars. There's like 5 or 6, yeah, there's 5 of them, 5 of them in the police vehicles.
Okay. So on, sir, I'm sorry, acting chief, I can call you. Or captain, so it's the idea that on any given patrol shift, at least there's one vehicle that might be roving around with an AED? Okay. Okay, so in other words, the active patrol. Wonderful, okay, that's great. You know, just confirming what I, suspected, which is that we're really on our game for public safety, but it's good to double check and get the update. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question, and very timely, of course. Any other updates? Well, I'll just close out by saying Happy New Year to everybody. It's great to see you all again on the other side, first of all. And second of all, I don't pontificate much, but as I think I've joked in the past from up here, we sometimes don't make our best decisions in election years. And this happens to be a municipal election year here in Lakewood. And I will do my best as the year moves on, and I'm sure my colleagues and the administration, of course, will as well. Always make the best Lakewood decision, not necessarily the best political one, and that we always do, what our city needs first. And yeah, just wanted to make sure I said that. It could be a year where we get contentious, and sometimes contention and challenging each other and things like that are not a bad thing, of course. But by the same token, I hope it's done with the collegiality I've seen throughout the years here in Lakewood, and again, with the best Lakewood decision being made at all times. So with that, I'll move to adjourn our meeting.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. We are adjourned.